I used to walk my dog, Buster, every night around 2 a.m. It was just our thing. Most people in my town were asleep, especially in the dead of winter. The air would be so still and cold it'd burn your nose a little, and the streetlights would cast these long, hazy glows on the snow-covered sidewalks. It was quiet, usually. Just the crunch of my boots, Buster's little huffs, and sometimes the far-off sound of a snowplow. It was peaceful, honestly. I loved it. It was my only real alone time after long shifts at the diner. Then, one night, I saw this dark blue sedan. It was parked about 3 blocks from my place, down near the old library that nobody really uses anymore. Engine was idling, I could see the exhaust puffing out in the cold, but no headlights. Just sitting there. I figured, someone probably just pulled over to take a late-night call, or maybe they were waiting for a friend to get off work. It was cold out, people stay in their cars. Buster gave a low, rumbling growl, but he does that sometimes at squirrels, so I just tugged his leash and kept walking. I told myself I was being paranoid. The next night, same deal. Same car, same spot. Still idling, still no lights. Okay, that's a little weird, I thought. But again, rationalization kicked in. Maybe it's a security guard doing rounds. Or someone who works an odd shift and just hangs out there for a bit before going home. I mean, it's a quiet town. Not much to do. I didn't want to be the kind of person who jumps to conclusions. My shifts were long, I was tired, and my imagination could run wild if I let it. But then it happened again. And again. Not always the exact same spot, but always on my route, always in a place where it could see me walking. Always dark blue. Always idling. Always late. I started getting this really awful feeling in the back of my neck. Like when you know someone's watching you, even if you can't see them. Buster started acting up, too. He'd pull on his leash, nose to the ground, almost like he was trying to drag me away from something. He'd whine at the air. I kept telling him, "It's nothing, boy, just a car." But I wasn't so sure anymore. One night, I just rounded the corner onto Elm Street, which is usually pretty deserted. The blue sedan was there, parked opposite the old elementary school. This time, I saw a flicker of light inside, like a phone screen. And for a split second, I saw a silhouette, a head turning. Looking right at me. My heart gave a weird little jump, like it had missed a beat. I sped up a little, pretending I hadn't seen anything. I thought about turning around, but then what? Just go home and not walk Buster. I mean, it was cold, I just wanted to get our walk over with. I told myself it was just a coincidence, that I was letting my late-night shifts get to me. I was too tired to care. I just wanted to go home. The next few days, it was a game. A really messed up game. I'd try different streets, vary our time by 10, 15 minutes. But somehow, that car would still be there. Sometimes it would be parked facing the direction I was coming from. Sometimes it would be a block ahead, and as I got closer, I'd hear the quiet hum of the engine as it pulled away, just slowly enough for me to see its taillights disappear around the next corner. It was like it was waiting for me to show up, then just leaving before I could get close enough to see anything. It wasn't driving fast, it was just moving away. Like a cat playing with a mouse. I started feeling really jumpy. Every shadow, every sound, would make me flinch. I started carrying my keys between my knuckles, just in case. Looking back, I should have called someone, I should have just stopped walking Buster at night. But I guess I was still trying to rationalize it, still trying to be polite to some invisible rule. I didn't want to be the crazy lady who called the cops because someone was parking their car. I also didn't want to admit to myself that something really creepy was happening. It felt embarrassing, you know. Like I was making it up. Then came the really bad night. It was snowing hard, big, fat flakes covering everything. Visibility was maybe 20 feet. Buster was doing his business near a big oak tree, and I was just standing there, shivering, pulling my scarf tighter. I was almost done with the walk, just 2 blocks from my house. As I turned onto my street, I saw it. The dark blue sedan. But this time, it wasn't idling. The engine was off. And it was parked right across the street from my house. My stomach just dropped. It was a cold, hard knot. My hand started shaking, so bad I almost dropped Buster's leash. I could see the snow piling up on its hood. It had been there for a while. As I got closer, trying to look casual but feeling like my heart was going to pound right out of my chest, the interior light flickered on. Just for a second. And I saw him. A man. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking straight ahead, right at my house. And then, he slowly, deliberately, turned his head. And he looked at me. His face was pale in the dim light, almost flat. No expression. But his eyes were just fixed on me. And then, slowly, a smile started to spread across his face. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was wide, too wide, and it just kept getting wider, like it was stretching his whole face. It lasted too long. It was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes at all. It was just a cold, knowing, absolutely terrifying grin. He lifted one hand, very slowly, and gave a little wave. A small, almost imperceptible wave. My blood ran cold. Every single hair on my body stood up. I didn't think, I just reacted. I grabbed Buster, practically scooped him up, and I ran. I just ran. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped them in the snow. I jammed the key into the lock, shoulder barging the door open, practically throwing Buster inside before slamming it shut and locking every single deadbolt I had. I watched through the peephole, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The car was still there. The interior light was off again. I couldn't see anything. But I knew he was still there. I knew he was watching. I stayed up all night, watching from behind the curtains, but he never moved. I called the police in the morning, told them about the car. They sent a patrol, but by the time they got there, maybe an hour later, the car was gone. They took my statement, said they'd keep an eye out, but there wasn't much they could do about a parked car. I never saw that blue sedan again after that night. But I never walked Buster after dark again either. I moved out of that house a few months later, couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I get in my car now, I check the rearview mirror a dozen times. Every time I see a dark blue sedan, my stomach clenches. So to the man in the dark blue sedan who watched me from across the street, who smiled that smile, let's not meet. I used to walk home from my friend Mark's place in Northwood, just outside of Portland, late at night. We were both in college, hammering out some brutal programming assignments, and I lived about a 20-minute walk away. It was early winter, so the air bit hard, and the streets were usually pretty empty by 1 a.m. Most people were already holed up for the night, especially with the temperatures dipping below freezing. I wasn't trying to be a hero, I just wanted to get home, shower, and collapse into bed. One night, probably around 1:45 a.m., I was heading back. It was one of those clear, still nights where the cold just sinks into your bones, and the streetlights cast long, sharp shadows. As I was walking down Elm Street, a dark, older model sedan, maybe a late 90s Honda Civic or Accord, drove past me real slow. Not fast enough to be cruising, not slow enough to be looking for a house number. It just sort of glided. I didn't think much of it at first. Just someone driving home, right? Probably lost, or maybe looking for a parking spot on a street they weren't familiar with. But then, about 5 minutes later, when I was turning onto Maple Avenue, the same car passed me again, coming from the opposite direction. I remember seeing the reflection of the streetlights off its dark paint. I mean, it's not a huge neighborhood, but it's not tiny either, and it's not a loop road. It was weird. My stomach did a little flip, but I told myself I was just tired and my brain was probably playing tricks on me. My eyes were probably just seeing things in the dark. I pulled my scarf tighter around my face and picked up my pace a little, trying to shake off the weird feeling. I kept walking, trying to ignore the prickle on the back of my neck. I was almost at the intersection with Oak Street, maybe 2 blocks from my apartment building, when I heard the distinct, low rumble of an engine behind me. I didn't turn around immediately. I just kept my eyes fixed forward, pretending I hadn't heard anything, even though every muscle in my back was tensed. The sound got closer, and I could feel the faint vibration in the pavement. It was that same car. It pulled up alongside me, matching my pace perfectly. The windows were tinted, so I couldn't see inside, not really. It just idled there, right next to me, for what felt like forever. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were trying to ask for directions, or something. Maybe I dropped something. I mean, it was late, but people still did things like that, right? I didn't want to be rude, or paranoid, so I just kept walking, trying to project an air of, I'm busy, don't bother me. I didn't even glance over. My heart was starting to beat a little faster, a dull thud against my ribs. Then, the car slowed down even more, almost to a crawl, and the passenger side window, the one right next to me, started to roll down. Slowly. The whirring sound of the motor was suddenly very loud in the quiet street. That's when I knew, deep down, that this wasn't someone asking for directions. This wasn't someone lost. This was wrong. All politeness went out the window. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't wait for the window to fully open, or for them to say anything. I just bolted. I broke into a dead run, my old backpack thudding against my back, my boots pounding on the cold sidewalk. I could hear the car accelerate behind me, not fast, but keeping pace. It was like a cruel, slow chase. My lungs burned immediately in the cold air. I didn't look back. I just focused on my apartment building, which was now thankfully visible a block away. I remember thinking, just get to the door, just get inside. I could hear the car still behind me, the engine sound a constant, low growl. My hands were shaking so bad I almost fumbled my keys when I finally reached the building's entrance. I jammed the key into the lock, my fingers numb with cold and terror. The car pulled up to the curb right as I got the door open. I heard the passenger door creak open. I didn't even look to see if anyone was getting out. I just flung myself inside, slamming the heavy glass door shut and fumbling with the deadbolt. My heart was absolutely hammering, vibrating through my whole chest. I pressed my back against the locked door, gasping for air, listening. After a minute, I heard the car's engine rev slightly, and then the sound of tires pulling away, slowly, down the street. I called the non-emergency police line when I finally made it to my apartment, still shaking. They sent an officer out, but there wasn't much they could do. No plate number, no description of the driver, just a vague car model. They told me to be more careful, maybe get a ride if I was out late. I ended up moving out of that apartment a few months later, and I never walked home alone at night again, not even a block. I still get that cold, tight feeling in my chest if a car idles too long next to me at a stoplight. I used to take the late bus home after my shift at the diner. It wasn't a bad job, just long hours, especially on weekends. This was back in, I guess, late 2023, maybe early 2024. The nights were already getting cold, the kind of cold that bites right through your coat even when you're bundled up. My stop was always the last one on the route before the bus looped back to the depot, so it was usually just me and the driver by the time we hit my neighborhood. It was around 12:45 a.m. most nights, and the streets were always empty, just the hum of the streetlights and the sound of my own footsteps crunching on the icy pavement. It was a 20-minute walk from the bus stop to my apartment, through a pretty quiet residential area. One Tuesday night, I remember it was particularly chilly, the kind of air that made your nose sting. I had my headphones in, listening to some podcast, just trying to zone out after a long day of serving lukewarm coffee and dealing with grumpy customers. When the bus pulled up to my stop, I thanked the driver and stepped out into the biting wind. The bus drove off, its taillights disappearing around the corner, and I started my usual walk. About 5 minutes in, I noticed a car parked about a block ahead, on the opposite side of the street. It was a dark sedan, maybe a Honda Civic or something similar, hard to tell in the dim light. The engine was off, but I could see the faint glow of the dash lights. I mean, it was late, but people parked their cars all the time, right? I didn't think much of it. I just kept walking, pulling my scarf tighter around my face. I told myself it was probably someone visiting a friend, or maybe they just got home and hadn't gone inside yet. As I got closer to where the car was parked, I noticed something else. The driver's side window was down, just a crack, and I thought I saw a flicker of movement inside. My stomach did a little flip, but I immediately rationalized it away. It's winter, who leaves their window down? Maybe they were smoking. Or maybe it was just a reflection. I tightened my grip on my purse strap and sped up my pace a little, just in case. I mean, I wasn't trying to be paranoid. It was just a car. No big deal. I passed it without looking directly at it, trying to act like I hadn't even noticed. I walked another block, maybe two, and then I heard it. The distinct sound of an engine starting up behind me. It was quiet at first, then the low rumble grew louder. I didn't turn around. I just kept my eyes fixed on the sidewalk in front of me, pretending I hadn't heard anything. My heart started to beat a little faster, a tiny drum against my ribs. I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence, that someone was finally leaving or just arriving home. I mean, it's a residential street, cars are supposed to be here. But the car wasn't pulling away. It was moving slowly, keeping pace with me. I could hear the gentle hum of its tires on the asphalt, just a little behind me, almost like it was coasting. I decided to cross the street. Not because I was scared, I told myself, but because the sidewalk on the other side was better lit. It was a flimsy excuse, even to myself. I crossed quickly, not looking back. The car followed. It crossed the street too, maintaining the same slow, deliberate pace. Now, I really felt it. That cold dread, like someone had poured ice water down my back. This wasn't a coincidence anymore. This was a dark blue sedan, or maybe black, I couldn't quite tell, following me at 12:55 a.m. I glanced over my shoulder, just a quick flick of my eyes. The car was maybe 20 feet behind me, and I could just make out the silhouette of a driver. They weren't speeding up, not slowing down, just there. Watching. My mind raced. I should have kept walking, acted normal. But my legs felt heavy, like they were made of lead. I was starting to shake, a tremor running through my hands that I tried to clench into fists inside my pockets. I knew, in that moment, that I had messed up by getting off at my usual stop. I should have stayed on the bus, gone to the depot, anything. I was an idiot for ignoring my gut feeling when I first saw the car. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but where? My apartment was still a few blocks away. Running would just confirm that I knew. And if I ran, what would they do? Speed up. Get out of the car. The thought made my stomach churn. I tried to walk faster, but it felt like I was wading through thick mud. The car behind me kept its distance perfectly. It was like a silent, predatory dance. I could feel my breath catching in my throat, each inhale sharp and cold. My hands were clammy, despite the freezing air. I was so close to my building, just one more turn. As I approached the corner, I decided to make a break for it. I wasn't thinking, just reacting. The moment my foot hit the turn, I sprinted. It was a clumsy, desperate dash, my cheap boots slipping a little on the frosty pavement. I didn't look back. I just pumped my arms, my lungs burning, the cold air searing my throat. I heard the car's engine roar, a sudden burst of acceleration. Tires squealed faintly as it rounded the corner behind me. I fumbled for my keys, my fingers stiff and clumsy with fear. My apartment building's entrance was just ahead, a heavy glass door with an electronic lock. I jammed the key fob against the sensor, praying it would work on the first try. The light flashed green, and I practically threw myself through the door, slamming it shut behind me. I didn't even bother to check if it locked properly. I just leaned against it, gasping for air, my whole body shaking uncontrollably. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I could hear the car outside, slowing down, then driving past the building, its engine a low growl that seemed to vibrate through the walls. It circled the block, once, then twice, before finally driving away. I watched from my window, hidden behind the blinds, until I couldn't see its taillights anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I called the police, but without a license plate or a clear description, there wasn't much they could do. They said they'd patrol the area more often. I started taking Ubers home after that, no matter how much it cost. I even moved out of that apartment a few months later, convinced that whoever it was, they knew where I lived.